Hey there, so today we have another review. This is a beer from Founders. This is KBS, the original. It actually almost looks like, first off, like I much prefer the old label. Like they have like some chocolate and cocoa nibs, some coffee, but then like there's a skull in there. I'm not quite sure why. And then, oh wow, they call it the Amazing Cosmickies, which is like their head brewer who's been with them for like quite a while. So shout out to the head brewer. The original, yeah. I don't know about you guys, but like I prefer the old bottle. But anyway, this is bottled about like 3 months ago. This is the 2022 batch. Pretty crazy. Like now thinking about it, this might be one of the most reviewed beers on the channel. Well, Bourbon County probably. Well, Heady Topper. I did like back in the day. I did like Heady Topper for like 10 weeks. Like every week I would review one can, and then I reviewed it a few times after that. Bourbon County should try to do every year. That's coming in a few months. Can't wait for that. But KBS, I've seen to review it like almost every month, and then the variants too, or every year. And I've done the variants too. And actually, funny enough, sorry if you guys are looking for a review. I'll like do a little story time, but I was like, I think I was dreaming the other day. I was thinking about the fun time where I actually won a contest. Like I don't know about you guys. Like, have you guys like won like the lottery or something cool before? But like for me, that was like winning lottery. Like that Founders contest that I won, where like I got to get a free flight to Grand Rapids, and they like, man, they got to pay for a hotel, and like they like treated us and like took us out to like dinner and all this cool stuff. Like that was absolutely insane. Like that was such a fun, absolutely like crazy experience. And like get to meet the owners, get to meet like it's really cool. So anyway, Founders KBS, the original. Let's see how this batch tastes. The last one I reviewed was a hazelnut one that I didn't really like because it's just so coffee. This beer is wonderful. I feel like it's gotten a little darker. Maybe is it possible it's gotten a little darker? Like I feel like the beer wasn't this dark, possibly. You guys confirm with me, but I feel the beer had like a light tan head. Now it's like a medium brown tan head, and like maybe they're adjusting recipe to what people want these days. Maybe a little bit darker, a little bit more. I don't know. Who knows? That smells like KBS still though. Like that's, yeah. That's it. It smells obvious in my mind, honestly, like a little bit more rounded than it usually is. Like sometimes it's sharper. This is in general still a little sharper than the beer compared to Bourbon County. It's bourbon, it's coffee, and it's got that signature kind of like roasty tint to it. Like that coffee, you know what? It's a combination of booze. It's like espresso and booze that like really exudes. So it's almost like that kind of like what they have for Italian for like dinner for dessert. It's like sambuca and like and espresso, right? It's like that, not licorice, but like it's boozy and coffee, right? Yeah, and it's got a little bit of this kind of wafery, kind of like chocolate wafer thing, right? Like chocolate wafer, a little bit of that. And then a little bit of like melted chocolate underneath. It smells good. Yeah, that's KBS. So in general, that's what it tastes like. I in general argue that like it's a thinner-ish kind of beer. At 12%, it's really not that rich and luscious. I mean, at least in today's world, right? But even back then in like Bourbon County worlds, where Bourbon County's been produced for like, it's been popular since at least like 2012, 2013. They moved into bigger bottles, 2015, 2016. You know, it's been around for like a decade now. This beer still like stayed pretty much the same, right? Up front, I get like it's sort of similar to the aroma. It's like a lightly like it's like vanilla ice cream with a little bit of cocoa nibs in it and a little bit of espresso beans in it, and then like some bourbon's been poured over it, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of char. The beer is generally bitter. It's definitely a bitter beer, and I think it's coming from the espresso. There's just such a punchy espresso note, whereas I mean, I think Bourbon County Coffee comes back this year. If I freaking find something, I love it. That's one of my favorite beers of all time, but they've stopped producing it for so long. But it's a sharp, bitter espresso. And with the sharpness of that, the lighter body this beer has, and the bourbon, it just makes like for like a little bit more like lighter experience versus like something so luscious and mouth coating and big as Bourbon County. Like these are the most relevant things I can talk about. And then we're not even comparing it to the sweet pastry stouts that we have these days, right? This beer just sits at such a different place than what Imperial Stout sits at now. Like, they're all about body, 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 body. And I feel like possibly this beer has maybe a little bit more body to it. Like, I taste a little bit more like vanilla. Like, it just like the vanilla, it like sits on the palate and like lingers a little bit longer. It's actually quite tasty. Like, I would argue this beer was never, in general, not as desserty. And like, this is definitely not a pastry stout, but I find this batch should be a little bit more pastry-y. Like the vanilla lingers a little bit more, and like, it's still KBS though. Really nice kind of like moderate to moderate plus roast of the malt. Espresso is just bitter. Like it's so sharp. Like, you know, in context of what pastry stout tastes like these days, like bitter, sharp. You better like coffee, you better like bitter, because it is bitter coffee in here. I would argue it's definitely a little bit more tamed down than what I tasted in the hazelnut version. I don't know why. Batch variation, how much coffee they've used, the extraction they got on that coffee, blah, blah, blah. So quite tasty. I like it. It's KBS with a hint of this kind of like ice creamy vanilla thing. It's nice to have variation in life. Not everything has to be luscious, big, sweet, pastry-ish, right? Here you actually get a taste of beer that's bourbon barrel aged, sharp with the bourbon, you know, in kind of like a juxtaposition from like sweet, melded, you know, barrel notes. Here you get a little bit sharp of the bourbon note. And then here you actually get the sharp, like, espresso. Like, you want to taste some coffee and some beer, drink this guy. Like, the espresso's like it gets you there, right? I would argue also to let this guy warm up. This warms up. It definitely gets a little bit boozier, a lot more boozy, but it shows like a little bit more complexity and it melts a little bit better. There's a really wonderful like nuttiness that comes into that's quite nice. Like, I guess it's from the coffee and the malt sort of like melts this little nuttiness. And then I guess the chocolate's always there, which helps accentuate the chocolate notes from the malt. So just an old standard, sits on the shelf these days. I was able to easily find it, didn't have to hunt it down. Yeah, I review it for you guys. Like, not something I always like blows me away, just like something that's always like a really wonderful like reminder of like what beer used to taste like, you know, like things that like, you know, KBS tasted like this for a while, but like nobody's actually making beer that really tastes like this, I don't think. Like, people are really trying to extract mouthfeel, high residual sweetness, more kind of like desserty ingredients, not like pushing towards like, hey, you want espresso in a stout? Let's give you some, like punch you in the face kind of thing. Like, it really tastes like a punch in the face kind of thing in the context of what stouts taste like these days. So I like its, you know, variability. I like that it sits out. Like, it's fun to have variation in life. Let's go with solid rating. Let's go with the, I never was like in love with this beer, but it's just a good place in life. 94 KBS, the OG, lovely, it's tasty. You know what it is what it is. This batch is honestly pretty tasty. You know what? Let's give it 95 KBS. I love me some KBS. It reminds me of that really wonderful trip to Grand Rapids. That was a fun time. And I haven't been back. Wow, it's crazy. I mean, I've been back to Michigan, but I didn't get back to Grand Rapids. And what a different time it's been. Like, the scene's probably grown. You know, I guess to visit speciation when they're like tiny. They've definitely grown now. What a fun trip. What a fun trip. But like, definitely one of my best beer memories out there. Like, just like that's so cool. But and that's like when they were like partially bought out. Now they're like fully bought out. But that was really cool. Fun time. So until next time, guys. Cheers. That's a 95 for me, KBS. Cheers later.